Welcome to Buckets from the Tommy John Home Studios. My name is Matt Moore. I'm the senior NBA writer for the Action Network. I'm joined by the future Jays, Jim Turvey and Joe Dellera. They're our futures experts. They're going to help me break down all sorts of things. We have 5 big questions in NBA futures betting this week, as well as we'll get to your Monday best bets in the association for December 16th. Everything we talk about can be found in the award-winning Action Network app. It's the best way for you to track your picks. You get up to the second information where the bets and money are coming in on. You can do things like track the plays that we give out on this show, including lots of really good NBA Cup MVP bets, and also Karl Anthony Towns and Trae Young to win. You can also track those if you want to take those. No, those were really good bets. As well, you should check out youtube.com/The Action Network. You can catch all sorts of great stuff on there. The Favorites is on there. The Action Network podcast is on there. We're doing more videos. We'll have more stuff during NBA. Bet What Happens Live, which if you bet NFL, if you haven't heard of this, Bet What Happens Live during the Island games, Giffen and the NFL guys will come on at halftime and tell you what to bet, and they murder every single week. Every single week they destroy. And every single week I'm busy being a person with a family, and I forget to tune in and then bet those things, and then I'm sad that I missed out. So for me, I need to live vicariously through you. By the way, thank you to the 5 people who listened to my expulsionary, please tell us that you listen and like the show, let me know in the comments, etc. I got lots of comments, and it was great. It was awesome. I really appreciate that. I'm shouting into the void here. We have no way of really knowing beyond the comments. So appreciate you guys letting us know how much you appreciate the show. We work really hard to make it good for you. All right, I blabbered enough. Let's get to this. Jim Turvey's on Twitter in the Action Network app at TurveyBets. He can find his work at Roto Grinders Daily. Joe Dellera on Twitter in the Action Network app at Joe Dellera. I can't believe you still have just Joe. Hi, I'm Joe Dellera.
You know where to find me.
Just Ladder Joe, Escalator Joe, something.
Nixon 7 Joe.
Nixon 7 Joe.
Nixon 4. Nixon 16.
All right. So some bummer of news came out over the weekend as Jared McCain, standout rookie for the Sixers, is going to be out indefinitely with a torn meniscus. It was really sad reading the Sixers fan reactions to it, because they were able to talk about it in such detail because they've had to deal with meniscus injuries so much that they know the deal. And I was like, oh, that's awful. They don't even need to learn about it. They're just like, okay, so is it going to be repaired or replaced? Because that, the soonest I think he can be back realistically, a best case scenario, if it's a minor tear that they do, it's actually worse if they do the repair on. If it's the repair, it's the whole season. If they just snip it and take it out, then he can be back within 2 months minimum. I don't see any way that he's going to play enough games in order for him to get this award. I just don't. I don't think there's any way that he's going to be back. He's going to miss, especially the way that the schedule is oriented. And I wrote a little bit about this over at one of my Substacks. Was there is a little bit of games in November, and then there's all of the games from now until All-Star. They just jammed everything into this compact time. And so he's going to miss a super high volume of games, especially for Philly. Philly had played the least amount of games so far in the NBA. They played 19 games before Thanksgiving. And now it's they played a metric ton the rest of the way. So I don't think he's going to make it back. Let's start with Jim. Okay. Jared McCain's out. What's the move as this market shifts?
Yeah, so the market leader right now is Stefan Castle. This is an interesting one. I tested this to Joe earlier in the season. This market has not been kind to me. We've given out some really good advice on this show. I feel like I'm chasing like a madman this year with Rookie of the Year. Edie was the one at the beginning of the year, and actually, I usually don't even dabble all that much in Rookie of the Year because I don't follow college basketball enough to feel like I have a really good way of capping it. This year, I was like, I don't think Edie should be the favorite. I'm going to toss a couple names in. I found I had a couple decent reads. I thought of people who could get playing time. It's all kind of every time someone pops up as the favorite, they kind of get smacked back down. So now Castle is kind of the favorite. I think the case there is that he has over in the month of December, he is the leading scorer for all rookies. But I don't know that to me, the case against Castle is that you want someone on a team that's potentially going to be just throwing minutes at really young guys throughout the season. The Spurs look like they're going to be kind of lingering around to play in at least, if not playoffs. So I think there's, of the favorites, the name that I kind of want to be looking at is Yves Missi. I think the Pelicans, they still seem to be giving things a shot here, but they have their own pick. There's really not a whole lot of reason for them to really be going for it in the West this year. They're in an in-between phase already. We talked about that before the season. It makes sense for them to kind of just pull the plug. And Missi's been, one of the best, like, kind of breakout rookies out of nowhere. He has the most points and by far the most rebounds of any rookie in December. The other name that I am intrigued by, I'll give a little bit of a longer shot here. If you have that proclivity like us on the podcast here, Jalen Wells of Memphis, he doesn't have the team that's going to be throwing minutes at him, but they do keep things really balanced over there. They're always resting their stars to make sure that they're going to be fresh for the full season. He is now the leading scorer among rookies with McCain out. McCain is the leading scorer, but he's second. There's a lot of cases to be made here, and Wells being 30-1, despite being the second leading scorer among rookies right now with McCain now out, his scoring has dropped a little bit now that they have basically all their guys back healthy. But those guys could be unhealthy at any minute. It's the Grizzlies. We've seen them go in and out. And he's not. It's not as if he's dropping off a cliff. It's not like he's getting now 6 minutes a game. He's still starting for the most part, and he's getting around 20 to 25 minutes a game. So I think in what's a pretty crowded field, I think I'd rather have Wells over Castle right now, just given the disparity in the two numbers. We've seen 5 different guys be favorites at different points during the season for this Rookie of the Year race. It really has been kind of funky. So I don't mind, in general, just kind of tapping out, being like, let me check in when things have settled in a little bit. But if you want to grab a long shot, I think Wells is the guy among those long shots who has the best case to kind of be the next one to pop his head up as a favorite who was a long shot just a couple weeks ago.
So I love this. Like, I will talk about Edie in a second. Because I once again was bullied into a bet on a defensive liability big man by Joe Dellera. But if you ask me, like, who has been the best rookie this season, I'll say Jared McCain, because I know that it's like, I respect the player's view that it's hard to get 25 in this league. Like, I respect the players on that. But if you're just like, don't listen to anybody else, who's the guy that you've watched that you were most impressed with? My answer is Jalen Wells. He defends at such a high level. Like, he is really good. Like, he's really good defensively. He's been starting in place of like Desmond Bane or Marcus Smart or both. And they found ways to get wins. And he's able to score. Like, Jalen Wells is great. So I'm going to bet this just out of sheer I like this guy principle. Because sometimes it's good to have bets on guys that you just like. And I like Jalen Wells. So
in all seriousness, can I just hop in real quick? Because I feel like that sounds like kind of a ridiculous thing to like, oh, I like this person. But I actually do think if you follow basketball a lot and you like see with your eyes players like this player is really good, I actually do think that can be like to your advantage at times. I think that's like Jalen Johnson was a player who for years were like, man, I just like Jalen Johnson. Look at now, he's popped as potential MIP winner this year.
So I am aware of my standing in the NBA ecosystem, but I will also tell you that there's a reason why, like, most of our lists of the people that I consider my contemporaries, our lists are often the same. That will be like, who I really like is like Jalen Wells, and if I'm talking like me too, like you're always, it's the same kind of. And guess what? Like, I'm not a voter because I write at Action. I used to be a voter. The voters are very much of like my tendencies. Like, we see the same stuff. You watch League Pass, you see the same stuff.
Yeah.
And so like Jalen Wells, I think is a definite option. When the news came out, I hit the Action Network Slack with it, and Joe Dellera immediately spit out with the one name that I did not want to bet in preseason. He was the preseason favorite. And then he spit this name out, and I was like, no, like, he's not even like playing that much, and he's hurt, and he's not good, and Brandon Clark rules, and they shouldn't have drafted him, and I hated the pick of the time, and I'm on record with that on Buckets. I said I didn't like it, blah, blah, blah. And then I looked, and fucking Zach Edey was 50-1, so I had to bet it. I hate you. I hate you, Dellera. I hate you.
Yeah, like when I saw the number and I logged in the Action Network app, I was like, this is insane. I was like, this should not be the number. Like they just completely hit a reset button on the year because it was basically just gonna go to Jared McCain. Like everybody's like, this dude is amazing, and he's continuing to do it with everybody else. Like when Joel Embiid was back, when Paul George was back, when Tyrese Maxey was back, he's still putting up like upper teens, if not 20 points a game. So like it was gonna go to him. Hit a reset button because everybody's like, nobody else is that good right now. And the thing about Edie is he's gonna keep playing. He came back. It's the start of the fourth quarter now. He's played 15 minutes. He has 9 and 7. So it's like the counting numbers are just gonna be there when nobody else is really putting up counting numbers. So that's my biggest thing. Like I think Castle's really good. I think that Wells is really good, but at the same time, like the numbers aren't eye-popping to me. And not that Edie's are, but it's the fact that he's probably going to average like close to a double-double on the season as a rookie on a team that's really pretty good in the Western Conference. So there's going to be more eyes on him, and he was the preseason favorite. So to me, when you see this type of thing happen, I think that a lot of voters can just revert back to their priors and be like, yeah, like I thought he was going to win. Like he was good. And they're going to forget that he missed games at the beginning of the season because it's just the beginning of the season. It was when Jared McCain was good. So it's not even going to be one of those scenarios. So I think that Edie, the number on Edie is crazy considering like what his role is. There's a very like distinct role for him on this Memphis Grizzlies team. And the fact that he was the favorite coming into the year when nobody else has really popped off the page to me aside from Jared McCain. So at the number, it's still, I think there's still 30-1 at least out there. I don't know how you don't grab a little bit right now. It's just a little bit it's just way too long. And even if we look at the advanced metrics for rookies, which are always like admittedly going to be bad, Jalen Wells is first. You know what Jalen Wells' estimated EPM is? Minus 0.1. So nobody is a positive. Literally no one is a positive. Zach Edey, I think, might have the best chance at being a positive because he's going to play the most minutes with the starting group for the Memphis Grizzlies. And I think that is going to be valuable because if there's not a lot there in terms of the counting stats, whatever, and you look at EPM, I think that Edey has the best chance to actually have like positive advanced metrics because of who he's going to be playing with in the starting unit.
What's the dumbest bet you have in your portfolio on this reward right now, Jim?
Oh man, there was like a let me look this up and I'll get back to you in 1 second.
Mine, I'll go ahead and say what mine is. And I actually still believe in this one. If the Blazers will just give up the fucking ghost and trade their big men, Donovan Clingan will win this going away.
Yeah.
I got him 30-1 early in the season when I noticed that he was good. He is now 60-1. I may bet more on him because his block rate is absolutely absurd. It's like guys that win that block a lot of shots don't win Rookie of the Year. They might in this year because that's how bad everyone else is. Now, I gave out Stephen Castle 16 ways from Sunday. He was like my preseason guy. I gave him out early in the season. I was on BetStream, which you can catch every week on League Pass. We're on Thursday this week, by the way. And you can check the receipts. I was like, Stephen Castle is the guy because when he wasn't the favorite, I was like, he should be the favorite. I don't think Jared McCain is going to keep this up. Now, Jared McCain might have kept this up. If you're listening to this and you're like, guys, why are you worried about games played though? Because of the, is it the 65 games thing? Two things are simultaneously true. One, rookies do not have to play 65 games in order to get the award. They are exempt from that provision. But voters won't vote for a guy if he's played 40 games. They just won't do it. They'll be like, you have to, like, availability is a skill. You have to have played in games. You don't have to play 65. Like, you can win with 64, 63, 62, 61, 60. You better have played at least, I think, like 55 games if you want to win this award.
Or like
anything less
in
than
a
that,
year where, like this year it doesn't have high quality at the top, but it has a lot of depth. There's just a lot of options, which is part of why I've bet this 100 times. But it doesn't have the stand up. Matt, I do have you beat for a terrible Rookie of the Year bet.
Okay.
When Lauri Markkanen went down one time, I immediately bet Kyle Filipowski for Rookie of the Year.
No, I have a worse one. I have I think I have what's his name? I'm literally forgetting his name.
Can't remember the name.
Is it Cody Williams? I have Cody Williams.
I bet Isaiah Collier.
Oh, is that we have so many Jazz options and none of them.
I bet Collier. That was an awful bet.
Yeah. EPM. I looked at offensive EPM. Number 1's Jared McCain. Number 2 is Jamison Battle, who's averaging 14 minutes for Toronto.
Yeah.
3 is Zach Edey. So something to keep in mind. That 4 is Wells. 5 is Kyle Filipowski. Messi is 6th. And then Pal Larson for Miami. Ryan Dunn. Ryan Dunn had a stretch there where I thought he was going to sneak it out.
Yep.
But yeah,
Messi's are so bad. By the way, his advanced numbers are atrocious. I was stunned when I saw him on this list. He's -2.5 in EPM. Yeah.
Wells estimated wins leader at 1.3 this season. I'm definitely going to bet Wells. That's a good call, Jim. That's just it's a great job by you, Jim. It's a great job. All right. Question 2. Okay. Is 6-man done? Because Peyton Pritchard, or as I call him, Sarah Lee, because it's white bread.
That one took me a second.
Is -500. And Jim, well, first Joe takes the victory lap, and then we'll get Jim's bet regret. So Joe, take the victory lap on and tell the people what the price you got on him is, because that is part of the show.
I need David to insert the Kobe job's not finished like thing right in here. But look, we got him at 100-1 preseason. I think it was on the long shots episode. I just like the fact that I was like, he's gonna get burned. And there was the quote, like the Jaylen Brown quote, where he was like, like when we just play like the Wizards and teams like that, we're just gonna say like, all right, Pritch, here's the ball, go do it. And then he just keeps doing it. So he's been tremendous. And actually, I don't remember where I saw the stat, but it was essentially that the true shooting numbers that Pritchard has this season are literally like second only to like 2015 Curry. That's it. It's Stephen Curry in like the peak of the Warriors dynasty and Peyton Pritchard. And then like followed by Steph Curry. So the year that he's having is just preposterous. And it's tough because like I know we've talked about it offline, and I know you're going to talk about it now. They just like don't stay on him. Like I know it's hard, but they leave him open and he just cooks them. So with this award for somebody that just normally is going to somebody that scores a lot for a good team, that's what he does off the bench. So I think the award should be wrapped up. Like I think it's his to lose. I know that there's going to be some conversation and there's going to be guys whose odds dip as the year progresses, but I don't know. I think Pritchard's been unbelievable for Boston.
I have a very large article coming out at one of my subs. This is where this stuff is on one of my Substacks tomorrow on Boston, and it basically it advocates that if you want to beat Boston in the regular season, if you actually want to try and beat them, you have to invert everything that you know. You have to stop crowding. You have to stop helping. There's a sequence where like Tatum gets Dame on a switch, but Dame's like got him. Dame's got him, and Giannis comes to help over because he's just like, I got to help my teammate. I need to help my teammate with this mismatch, and he leaves Derek White. Derek White on a catch-and-shoot jumper, the expected points per possession this season is 1.4. That's a 140 offensive rating when the league average is 116. Like, there is no two-pointer that you are reasonably going to give up as long as you contest it that is higher than that. It has to be a wide-open, no one is touching you dunk for it to be higher than this. And Pritchard's up there too at like 1.39.
Yeah. And we talk about this though, because whenever we talk about Boston, and part of why we were like, oh, Boston maybe can't do it last year was because they always seem to, whenever a game gets close, they revert to hero ball. But they've been better this year at not doing, like they still did it honestly in the finals last year. They still did it last year in the playoffs. They like really haven't done it this year. And I think maybe it's because they won and now they're just like, we got one. It worked. We just have to trust the process, like literally. And they don't delve into that hero ball that has just been super problematic for them because they don't have guys as good as like Tatum is, as good as Brown is. They don't really have guys that are exceptional one-on-one scorers, like in ISO scorers. They're good. They're definitely above average, if not elite, but still that elite number for an ISO scorer is apparently not as good as a Derek White open jumper.
Yeah. Jim, what's your take on this?
Yeah, so I think Joe's got a mouse in his pocket there because he said we got Pritchard at 100-1. Sadly, I was not part of this, and this was we talked about this in kind of the chat before the podcast here, and we talked about like so Joe texted this bet to us, and I was like, I absolutely adore this bet. I love it so much. I want to bet it. But because it was only at the best I could find was something in the 50-1 range, and I was like, the payout's like half of it. I don't want to be chasing a number, and I sat it out. And it's like one of the 5 greatest regrets of my life now is that I did not just bet the 50-1. It's still a good number, but in my head it felt like it was chasing. It felt like I was kind of forcing a bet, even though if Joe had texted, hey, I found Peyton Pritchard 50-1, I think I would have been like, oh, I like that. I still like that number. So it's almost like this like mental trick that you have to talk yourself into is like, just if you're getting a slightly worse number than someone else out there, that in and of itself, it's like, one of these biases, these cognitive biases we have that's like, oh, I didn't get as good as Joe got. So like, there's probably not value at this point, but there definitely can still be value out there. And yeah, I mean, Boston's leaning into it so hard. It was Detroit. They said it about Joe. They're like, when we play the Pistons, we'll let him just go nuts. Yeah. And they've done that. They just played the Pistons. He took 15 threes in that game in a 24-point win. They're not starting him any games. They're just keeping him circled out the bed. They are leaning all the way into it. I'm with you guys. I think at this point, only an injury is going to prevent a hell of a win for Joe that I am very sadly going to be on the sidelines for, cheering hard from the sidelines, but not cashing out alongside Joe.
No, that would be a sick one.
So it's 100-1, yes?
It's 100-1, and I had similar issues as Jim, getting down as much as I wanted on the 100-1. So I have tickets at like 80-1, 60-1, 50-1. So like I didn't feel the same way as Jim. I just was frustrated that like I couldn't get down as much as I wanted on the 100-1.
Yeah.
And so, like you said, I think
I want to talk about this as a learning thing from process standpoint, right? Because I think what Jim's saying is like a thing that we run into a lot, which is, oh, he got it at 100 and it's only 50. That's a 50-1 winner.
Well, and by implied odds, it's a tiny. It's why we love the long shots. The implied odds are like basically no different.
Yeah. So I'm just looking at that up. So 100-1 is 0.99%. It's less than 1%.
Yeah.
And
it's less than.
It's basically 1 to 2, 1% to 2%.
It's tougher. I think it's tougher. It's easier to swallow that way. Like if you do the percentage conversion in your head and you're just like, oh, well, like it's 1% or 2%, like whatever. When you think about
it's not 1% or 2%. It's 0.1% versus 2%. Like that's what we're talking about here.
No, but like but I think it's harder to swallow. Like if you put 1 unit on something at 50-1 versus 1 unit on something at 100-1, and you're like, man, like he made twice as much as me. It's like, yeah, but like
you made 50-1.
Yeah, like you're still 50-1.
I think ironically, it's almost the inverse of why typically we are good at finding these, is because the books are like, oh, these two numbers are very like they're if they're thinking in implied odds, it's very similar, but we're like the payout is twice as much. So then in my head, I like reverse math that, and I'm like, I'm getting half the payout at that point. I don't know if it's worth like, another shot, but like it like so clearly was. And in hindsight, it's like, man, it was sitting right there teed up. But yeah, I do think it's a good learning lesson to like interrogate your biases and like almost frame it in your head of like, okay, well, what if Joe had said, I found Peyton Pritchard 50-1? I think I definitely would have been like, oh, that's a good find. And it's like only that little framing device in my head that like scared me off of it.
Okay, so moving on. I was very glad to see the Bucks. I bet Bucks minus 3.5, and that cashed in the cup. As if the Hawks had ruined the cup for me, it wouldn't have just. It was like the combination of I had these really great bets, and the fucking Hawks messed it up, and having to deal with Jim grinning at me would have been insufferable. So thank God Giannis came home. We'll talk more about the Cup tomorrow on Cash Only with Sean and Jay. But right now, I do think the Hawks have made some noise, and they are. How can I put this? When the Hawks are good, they're really impressive. It's the best way I can put this. The Hawks right now are yes minus 185, no plus 145 to make the playoffs. That's where they are at right now. They stand 7th in the Eastern Conference at 14-13. The teams behind them are the Indiana Pacers, the Chicago Bulls, the Brooklyn Nets, who have lost 2 in a row and 6 of their last 10, the Detroit Pistons, who have lost 7 of their last 10, the Philadelphia 76ers, mind you, and then the Charlotte Hornets, the Raptors, and the Wizards. So let's do Joe first. Joe, what do you think about Hawks? Yes, minus 185, no, plus 145 to make the playoffs.
I would probably bet no. I'm just not like super impressed with that. Like, I think they're just not that good. Like, nothing about their profile suggests that they're good. None of their advanced stats are good. They just can beat anybody on any given day. And I think that that's important, but it's also not something that I would need to lay minus 185 for. I think that the East is still good enough at the top that they would be in the play-in, and then I can just make a decision based on matchup if I want to bet them on an individual basis. So to me, like, I'd rather say no, plus 145. I think that you're able to actually bet no at a good number right now because they looked impressive in the Cup. Whereas if you did this, I think earlier in the season, I think the odds were the inverse, and they were less likely to make the playoffs than they are right now. So that's the way that I would look at it. I think that they can beat anybody on any given night. I think that they have an ability to attack certain things, like schematically, or just like the way that they play on like during the regular season that don't or might not necessarily work come the postseason, and it's like a little bit less exploitable. Like, they beat Milwaukee in the regular season, and then obviously this is still a regular season game, but in the Cup games, you know, it doesn't work. It doesn't play out the same way.
So I found a pretty interesting site. I've known about the site for a while, but they've added some stuff called NBAstuffer.com, and they've added a consistency metric, and one of the things that they have is adjusted 4 factors based on your consistency. So how good are you in the 4 factors across game to game in those categories? The Hawks are 6th worst, and that tracks to me. The teams above them are Philadelphia, New Orleans, Washington, Portland, the Lakers. A who's who of, oh God. But like night to night, it's very variable, right? Except for the Wizards, who are just always awful. Jim, as a resident, you sadly have to lease your land for Michael Fiddle. But as the largest landowner on Hawks Island, I will ask you, Hawks, yes, minus 185, no, plus 145 to make the playoffs.
I'll lead with just the very boring, straightforward answer. I don't think there's value on either side right now, to be honest. Joe mentioned that he just doesn't think they're all that good. I think that's like a relatively fair assessment. If you look at their adjusted net rating, it's below the Pacers. It's even below the Sixers. And this isn't like projecting forward about, this is like just the Sixers by like adjusted net rating have been better this season, even in their disaster season. So I wanted to play a little game with you though, as we think about this. So these teams, as I say them, say if you think they're a lock for the playoffs in the East. So Celtics.
Yeah.
Lock.
Cavs.
Yeah.
Lock.
Knicks.
Lock.
Bucks.
Lock.
Lock.
Magic.
Lock.
Yeah.
So there's 5 locks. And then if the Hawks, if you drop one below that, you're suddenly in the play-in. Now, I think the interesting flip side of that is that I actually think I disagree a little bit with Joe. I think that they actually are a decent team for the postseason. I think that having the Dyson Daniels ability to throw at the best small creator on the other team, and then Trey just does get better in big games. Like, he really has played well in some of the bigger moments that he's had in his career. I kind of like them as a postseason team. So if they get into the play-in, I actually won't hate betting them, but I don't want to lay money with 5 teams that are, I agree with you guys, are locks above them. The only thing I will say, so I agree that the 4 are mega locks, the Celtics, Cavs, Knicks, and Bucks. I think the Magic are a lock. They've got Paolo coming back soon. I was talking to Joe about this earlier today. The Magic look a little bit frustrated right now. I think that's because they overall are a really strong team and they're going through what's the toughest stretch of their season right now. But the vibes did not look great. I think if you want to if you want to join me and Fiddle on the island, if you want to like become a state representative on the island, bet Hawks division right now, because I don't want to lay minus 185 with this team, right? Again, this is the team you want to go to extremes with. Them to win the division at 10-1 right now. The Heat are very sus. There's a lot of smoke around the Jimmy Butler thing. Even if he doesn't get traded, they're basically neck and neck in the standings right now. The Magic are the other team that is in the division. They're leading the division by a bunch. That makes sense. But there are, again, if things get a little bit wobbly there, if Franz suffers a setback in his, return from injury, this team I do think is a little vulnerable. And if you're buying the Hawks, buy the ceiling. That's always what you want to do with a team that can be this variant. So I think if you want to do anything, do the division. But I think I'm content to ride my over 35.5 and cash it by February.
I don't think you're going to cash it, but
you don't think it's going to cash over 35.5?
No, I don't. I still
wow.
Every projection, every site that I go to, like not everyone, but a lot of the projections are like, yeah, no, they're like they grade out as like a 32, 30, like it's going to be real tight. Now they may already be there. Are you looking at Basketball Reference or what?
I'm going to dunks and threes. They don't have the exact win totals, right. Though. They just have playoffs. They do have wins. They have 39, so it's not a walk.
Glass says 37.5.
Yeah,
and they're they're sixth.
It's tight. So now in your favor though, like these projections are based off of the full season number. Yeah. Which when I get into, so I have one projection that's, let's disregard what's already, like let's take who you are right now and then let's look at the rest of the season. And that one they sneak over at 37. So it's like as long as they don't regress back at all, you're fine.
I will say that Trey has been playing, like Trey's shooting numbers. Now, I think you'll say, I think at this point he's shown us who he is, but he is not shooting the ball well at all. And they've been able to have this success. So
yeah. So I do want to say 2 things. One, if they get in, Jim, I'll row to the island.
Yeah.
If they get in, I'm gonna play them plus 2.5 versus whoever, Hawks or Celtics, Cavaliers, Knicks preferably. Like any of those teams, I'll take the plus 2.5 on the Hawks on the series win line. But here's like a good way a reason to bet the plus 140. I actually have like a very, I think a pretty good cap here. Would you agree that the Hawks are at least no better or worse than the other play-in teams than we've seen over the last 4 seasons of the play-in tournament?
Yeah.
Like they're not like, oh, they're way better than the rest of these. No, like they're right there. Because like the Heat have been in it, and really good competitive teams. But also like there's some trash. But the key here is like if we just take them as like a completely average play-in team, which I think is what they are. Like they're in 7th now. Probably one team gets over them, and they're 8th. The 8th, 9th teams are exactly 500 in making the playoffs out of the play-in tournament. 10th is 0, 7th is 100. Like that's how the stratification has gone through the years of the play-in tournament. 7th makes it. 8th and 9th is a coin flip. 10th is a 0.
Yeah.
So if we look at that and we take the plus 140, we've got implied odds of 41.67%. So we literally have 8.33 percentage points of EV here. That the Hawks should probably be exactly even plus minus to make the playoffs. They should be minus 100 plus 100. That's what I think the line should be based off of the expectation that they wind up in the play-in tournament.
Yeah, I feel like I want a much bigger sample to get exactly 50, but I agree with the overall point that's being made. It's if you're in that level, it's around a coin flip, and grabbing plus money on what is around a coin flip is a positive bet. I like the logic there.
That's my logic for this cap, that I will not bet, because I'm not going to bet against this annoying ass Hawks team and let them occupy any more of my brain space, because they bought. See, here's the thing. I really like a lot about them. I loved Dyson. I watched Jalen Johnson clips today for an hour because I'm a sicko, and that's what I did on a Sunday. It was like I sat down and I watched Jalen Johnson clips for an hour, and I'm saying, like, seriously, he might be like one of the 5 players I like watching the most this season.
He's awesome.
Like, as long as Trey doesn't dribble, it's really great. Okay, last thing. Clutch player. We got one more after this. Clutch player. This is Jim's turf. De'Aaron Fox leads in clutch points right now, including 16 over Nikola Jokic, who is the market leader, plus 290. Hit the victory lap music, because
definitely hit the Kobe. We're not done here yet.
Jim had a phenomenal cap on Nikola Jokic clutch player of the year in preseason, and I listened to it and was like, this is what I love about this show, is that these guys bring bets in here, and 3-4 years ago I've been like, all right, that's nice, and now I listen to them entirely differently, because I just let it. I listen to the cap. I don't bet everything, but I listen to the cap, and I'm like, oh, God, this is really good. And sometimes you're gonna get Karl Anthony Towns Cup MVP, but sometimes you're gonna get stuff like Nikola Jokic clutch player of the year. What was the number we got him at?
30-1 preseason.
30-1, and he's plus 290, the favorite to win. So Jim, give me the cap right now on clutch player of the year.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a really interesting pivot year, because again, this is only the 3rd year that this award exists, and it's kind of at this. Wait, so you mentioned Fox is currently the leader in clutch points again. Yeah, and so he won the first year of the award of this, and so far the award has literally just been go to NBA.com, find clutch stats, sort the points scored column, give it to the person at the top of the leaderboard. That's how it's worked. I think this is going to be the year that pivots. Say if Fox leads in points again, we're going to see, is this a defensive player of the year award type, where we give it to, we don't mind multiple winners. In fact, if you have a reputation, it kind of helps you. You can rack up 3, 4, 5 of these across your career. Or is it more like a most improved player, where we give it, you're not going to win it twice. We're going to use it to kind of recognize people who might not get other awards. This might be a stepping stone type award. It could be a year that we can't give it to this player. We can't give MVP, but we'll give them clutch player of the year. I'm leaning towards this being the type of award that doesn't repeat. I would be surprised if Fox wins this award 2 of its first 3 years in existence. I could be wrong on that, but the hedge I want on Jokic right now. So this is a bet I think is actually a decent bet in general, but especially if you have Jokic and you're looking to hedge in some way or another. Because I think the guy behind Fox right now, he's only 6 points behind Fox, and he has way more rebounds and assists in the clutch. He has a better plus minus in the clutch, if we're finally going to hopefully pay attention to that. Jason Tatum, it also kind of fits narratively in kind of a funny, upending a narrative type thing, where I think he for many years has gotten a reputation of, getting a little stagnant in clutch time. We just referenced Boston's struggles, but Joe mentioned, they really have looked better in the clutch this season. And Tatum is doing very well in the clutch this season. I think it would be, one of those things where people go and they look at the leaderboard and they're like, wait, Tatum? That's kind of funny. I actually kind of, can make a narrative case for this is the improvement he made to make the next level. I'm not going to give him MVP, but let me give him clutch player of the year. So there's a plus 850 out there now in the market. I like that as a bet to hedge off of Jokic if you were able to get that number. But even if you're brand new to this market, I think that's a pretty good bet to make, because I don't see Fox taking down 2 of these in the first 3 years. I could be misreading how this award is going to go, but I just think this is going to be a year where we get to kind of figure out, is this going to be a repeat winner type of award? And I just don't really see it being that type of an award.
The Tatum thing, I think my only concern is they're not going to play enough clutch games.
I agree in theory, but they have so far. So has their schedule been harder so far? Or you think that that kind of stretch in March, April, they'll kind of just run away with games when teams don't really care?
I think they'll just run. I think they'll just wind up in a lot of these games where they win by double. Like they play in the East, they're going to play a lot of games where, that's the thing in the West is like there might be a little bit of an edge on all these guys in the West because the West you're going to just like even if you're playing well, you can't kick them off the ladder, so you wind up in a clutch game versus them.
Yeah.
Versus in the Eastern Conference, like if you kick the Wizards hard, they'll be like, all right.
The one thing that's nice about this is the clutch definition is so loose. It's like 5 points within 5 minutes. You can get a game that's honestly not really that close, and you can rack up a few clutch points.
I'll say this: Trae Young at 18-1 is not a bad hedge against the plus 140.
That one seems to me like the Halliburton. Halliburton was really trendy right around the in-season last year. And then, and granted, he picked up an injury, so that was part of it. But I feel like it is, at this point of the year, we're so in-season focused that it like kind of like gets in your head. And then later in the year, people semi-forget about it.
But he's also fourth, And like the Hawks will be in a lot of close games because they're not very good. So Darius Garland is the other one that I would kind of look at. But Donovan Mitchell actually has more shots than him.
I love using field goal attempts as the barometer early in the season instead of direct points. I definitely always go to field goal attempts.
By the way, shout out RJ Barrett, who has 35 this season so far. He is ready to be the guy for whenever it is called upon. We'll get to him a little bit more later. Joe, do you have thoughts on Clutch Player of the Year?
Like this is definitely Jim's award. I feel like he's really done a really good job of capping this. One guy that I think is really interesting is Kevin Durant because the Suns are 10-0 in clutch games where Kevin Durant plays. When Devin Booker, I thought like would also maybe like fit this criteria, right? Well, they are 10-5 when Devin Booker is playing. So those are 5 losses with only Devin Booker and not Kevin Durant. And Durant is shooting 60% from the field. So he's doing the thing. And, it's an award where I don't believe there's no games minimum for a clutch player. So is there? I don't think, is there one?
Sure.
I don't recall.
No.
But so like you don't need that. So that helps with an older player. And you just know like at the end of the game, you give the ball to KD, he's going to make these shots. He's going to get the free throw attempts. He's their best shooter, really. So I think that there's opportunity. He's at 36 points, which seems far off, like we've kind of talked about from where, De'Aaron Fox is at 63. But you have a couple close games, a game that goes to overtime. Next thing you know, you're all the way at the top of the leaderboard. So, he just missed a bunch of time. He's coming back. And I just like the fact that they're 10-0 in these games that he's playing.
I think that 10-0, and I've heard people talk about that, the Phoenix Suns clutch record narrative. I think that is definitely a thing. So I think that's the thing to keep an eye on. We probably don't have to hit it this second because CST stays healthy for a bit.
So
but I think that's an interesting look for sure.
Yeah.
Last one I would kind of say is Tyrese Maxey actually is absolutely chuck him whenever they're in the last 2 minutes.
Yeah. Now even
that's another one where you can buy low on him having missed time, and it's like he's kind of hidden down the standings.
Yeah. He's at 100-1 right now. So kind of interesting idea there. So that might be an ad too. Real quick, Joe, what's the biggest thing that you learned from the Cup this year?
That teams care about it more as the games go on. I feel like towards the end, like the third and fourth games in group play, like I think the first 2 games are like, like whatever, it's game. If we win, we win. If we don't, like it is what it is. By games 3 and 4, it was like, this is our path. This is what we have to do. And then there was like a direct vision on how to get there. And I think that impacted some of the spreads and some of the outcomes that we did see.
Okay. I love that angle.
I like that too.
That's definitely, and that actually kind of explains a lot because it's not a super strong correlation, but there's a real curve of the overs and unders in these games where the early ones are over because the hyper offensive teams that are young that want to go for it, they get out to a hot start. And then when the teams that are better realize that they can win $500,000, they start to actually lock down.
Yeah.
And Raheem Palmer was telling me this, and I wish I'd noticed it before. Every game in Vegas has gone under so far through 2 years. So a little bit of a hint for you for Tuesday. I'll be on the under in that game, despite any sort of projection. Jim, biggest thing that you learned from the Cup?
Group long shots remain excellent. You know, we had Hawks and Rockets Island pay off a little bit, but even the ones that didn't pay off are really good to be able to leverage. You know, Pistons over the summer were 36-1 to win their group. They didn't hit, but that very final day, I was able to hedge out with a Bucks money line, and it still ended up being beneficial. So I think again, this is 4 regular season NBA games. If you're looking at teams that you think you're going to be higher on during the regular season and they have crazy long shot numbers, the Spurs were almost one that cashed as well. There's just there's so much chaos, there's so much noise within 4 regular season games that I really do think that leveraging these group long shots is something I'm going to pick out 3 or 4 every summer and be hitting them, and then either leverage them or cash them out once we get to the actual in season.
Yeah.
So you were good at it. I was bad at it. So I will push back a little bit from this perspective of if you're doing that, what you need to do is take the long shots that are teams that last season were within shouting distance of 500. Like not very good teams that might be in the mix in November this season. And the reason I say that is the Chicago Bulls was the best one that I had. That we were close.
Yeah,
I would say that was a very good bet. Even though it didn't hit,
yeah. And there wasn't really an effective way to hedge it either with where the games were. But I will just say, and the Bulls kind of fall in that category, right? Versus I bet the Hornets, and that one was no, the Hornets are just not good. Don't take the absolute bottom of the pile. Rockets, I think was the best one to me.
Yeah.
Rockets was the best one of. This team wants to win. They're trying to figure out how to win. They want to win everything. There's no we're trying to win a championship. Do we want the cup? There's none of that push-pull going on.
Yeah.
Let's go win. That to me was a great bet. Fuck the Hawks. All right. Let's do best bets for Monday. In the association, Jim, let's go around the horn. Jim, you'll go first. What are your best bets for Monday?
2 player props. One side, I've got Mark Williams over points, RJ Barrett over assists, and Chicago Bulls money line.
Thank you for doing a side. Joe Dellera.
I knew if I didn't bring one, I would be yelled at. So I decided to not get yelled at.
Joe Dellera, what is your best bet for Monday?
So I'll get yelled at, but I have 2. I have Gershon Yabusele of the Philadelphia 76ers French national team over 11.5 points plus rebounds, and LaMelo Ball 4+ threes at plus 100.
Just so we're clear, the people, our listeners are why are you yelling at Joe? Joe gives out winners. I know. That's why I have Joe on, because Joe's awesome and amazing. It's just really funny because if you look at all of our numbers, it's what do people want? Sides and totals. What do our guys want to bet? Props every time, every single, because the market's softer. It's just a lot more beatable.
Yeah.
I am going to go with the. I'm going to go with the Nuggets on the road, -1 versus the Kings. And I'm going to go, God help me, I'm going to grab the 1.5 of the Chicago Bulls.
Oh, boy.
God help me.
Both of us on the Bulls. What could go wrong?
I'll take the money line with Jim. We'll both go down together. All right, Joe, tell me about Gershon Yabusele.
So look, Joel Embiid broke his face, and that obviously matters a little bit here. And one of the biggest beneficiaries of Joel Embiid not playing has been Yabusele. He's over this line. This line is just too low. Honestly, by the time this drops, it might be at 14.5, and you should still bet it. This line is just too low. He's hit this in 10 straight games without Joel Embiid this season. Over that 10-game stretch, he's averaging 20.3 PR. So this number is just off. It's a bad number. And this matchup against the Hornets, I think is still a pretty good spot for him. I think that they're going to have some ability to help set him up. He doesn't need to take on the same type of offensive load as some of the other points in the season, but 11.5 is just way too low. He could go over that in points. He could go over that in rebounds. I think it's entirely possible to have him have a 15-7 type of game, and I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest bit. So right now there's a plus. If you get an alt line at 20 plus PR at plus 430 at Caesars, I think that's also worth a little bit of a sprinkle, just based on the fact that he's averaging 20.3 over his last 10 without Joel Embiid.
Yeah, I mean, look, Gershon's good.
Yeah.
Gershon, there's a reason he got picked up. He was great in overseas or in the Olympics, and he's been good here. I don't think he's been like the problem for the Sixers. Might do Sixers money line with Yabusele and all over.
If you want to get some negative correlation, you can go to my next one, which is LaMelo Ball 4+ threes. It's plus 100, and I'm not sure if he's going to return. He got upgraded. It sounds like he might play against Philly. This line to me, I think, is just ridiculous. He's averaging 4.7 threes per game on 13 attempts in like 34 minutes. So even if he's got like a minutes cap, let's call it like 30 is the cap, right? Even then, I think because it's a lower body injury that he's dealing with, I think what I've noticed sometimes with these players, they come back from the lower body injuries, they aren't always feeling like 100% confident in their ability to drive to the rack. LaMelo's just going to chuck more threes. He's going to shoot more threes. So I think we might even see the frequency of threes jump, even if we see him on slightly limited minutes. He made 6 out of 18 against Philly back in November. So it's a great matchup. Philly has the 7th highest frequency of above the break threes allowed, and that's just where LaMelo's bombing from. He doesn't take corner threes. He only really takes above the break threes. So considering the fact that he's made 4 or more in 78% of games this season, I'll take the chance that he's going to be on a little bit of a minutes restriction. I think the number is just too low.
Philadelphia 76ers are dead, as Matt Mitchell would say, dead fucking last in defending pick and rolls. No, I'm sorry, that's offense. Ooh, okay, so this isn't why, right? This is not why this cap is, or this number is the way it is. It's just like a wrong number, and you should go bet it. I didn't know, because the reason I looked this up was because I didn't actually notice this. There's one thing the Sixers actually do well, and that's defend pick and roll. So what they do is they crash everything to try and stop the ball handler, and then they give up the kickouts. That's like how, if you look at their numbers, that's actually like what they wind up giving up. Is they're going to send like the fleet at LaMelo to try and stop now, but you just mentioned the November game. So obviously it doesn't work. Also, I just don't think that there's anything in the world that's going to stop LaMelo from shooting. I don't think
really
that
the bigger point. Yeah.
Like hell or high water, there's no way that LaMelo is not going to shoot. I'm going to work on the same game parlay. Let's jump over to Jim. Jim, your pick. Give me a cap on one of your picks.
Well, I'll stick in that game if we want to toss it in there. Mark Williams over his points. Now, unfortunately, I don't think they have it out right now. Last game, it opened at 9.5. Last game, he cleared this very easily. He played his highest minutes total of the season. He also got his first start of the season. Mark Williams is a guy that I feel like is a little bit slept on, but the folks in Charlotte are about as high on Mark Williams. I think they see him as kind of a potential cornerstone for the franchise. Really, really talented. He's the season high last time out was 50. He had 15 points, 9 rebounds. I'm guessing they're going to hang this at like 11.5. It might even be a little bit higher. There might be something during the day that they say about his minutes limit, but based on last game, he'd been playing kind of in like the 10-minute range. They jumped him up to 17. He played really well. I think we're going to see him in the starting lineup again. Could see him around 20 minutes. If he's getting 20 minutes, I'm going to bet this up till over 13.5, like around in that range as well. LaMelo being back is potentially going to open up more opportunities for him as well. And Matt, this feeds right into what you were just saying about how they send the fleet at the 3-point shooters. They have the 4th worst field goal percentage on shots 0 to 3 feet this season. That's where Mark Williams eats. I think no Embiid. Again, Yabusele is a fun player, and he's going to put up points and rebounds. He's definitely not the rim protector Joel Embiid is. So I think that there's just a lot of factors going towards Mark Williams having potentially a really nice game against the Sixers tomorrow.
I want to congratulate the both of you for taking props on guys that are not up on DraftKings at all. Just digging so deep.
There's like nothing up right now. There weren't even spreads until like an hour before we recorded.
Digging so deep into the pile that we can't even find half of these things. I do appreciate it.
That's how you know they're going to hit.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm looking at Kershaw Yabusele I don't know why I'm laughing at it, because like Gershon's a good player. Like he's a good player. Let's lay the wood with the Sixers. -2.5. It's not a lot of wood. It's a little wood. And Mark Williams is not up yet, but we'll do the threes. Nope. Bet365 doesn't have any of the Hornets up. So cool.
Maybe we can get it on the Parlay Express tomorrow morning when everything's up and at 'em.
When we get this same game parlay together, we will put it on the Parlay Express account in the Action Network app. I will promise you we will have a Sixers Hornets same game parlay.
Give the people what they want.
Or the sickos. we will make it happen. Okay. Real quickly on mine, I will go through a couple of them. I actually didn't give out my best bet, which I missed it because I had it written some down somewhere else. I'm on Heat -4.5. There's a 4 in the market too versus the Detroit Pistons. I'm going to like this at any number under 10. That's what I've got this at. So Detroit is it's been weird. Detroit was undervalued early and we were able to hit them. And like, I was betting them pretty consistently because the idea was like, oh, the Pistons are awful. And then the market adjusted and we're like, hey, the Pistons are like pretty good. And that's where I'm like, whoa. The Pistons are not awful. They're not good. And there's a very big difference there. They haven't been good at home in this spot. The Pistons are 36.4% against the spread at home. They're much better on the road. I like Detroit as a road dog. Like, that's where I want Detroit as a road dog. I do not want them as a home dog. Miami's actually getting it together. Tyler Hero, they've won a bunch recently. Tyler's been playing great. Bam's starting to get it together. They're getting different contributions. Jovic was phenomenal in the NBA bet stream we did the other night. They have guys. Detroit does not have enough guys. And I think Detroit will probably dip and then come out of it and then dip again. I still feel really good about the over on their win total. We're at like 10 wins by early December. Thumbs up. Like, keep it up, JB Bickerstaff. You're heading in the right direction. But they're not going to beat anybody with a pulse. And the Heat definitely have a pulse here. 4.5, less than 2 possessions is just too low. I won't say 10. I'll like this to any number under 7.5. Don't go 7.5. Everything under is great. I'm going to take. Well, Jim, you give me the cap. Why do you like the Bulls versus the Raptors here?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I was trying to punt the cap to you earlier in the episode because before we started recording, it was like, honestly, to me, this is just a team that is in a higher tier. The Raptors are without Scotty Barnes, they're without Emmanuel Quickley. They're I think you're going to give a pretty good number here on their ATS is really good at home. It is kind of hard to argue with. The Bulls actually have been really good on the road, though. They're over 500 just by win-loss on the road. So they haven't really minded that. Zach LaVine is questionable for this game. He's been playing well for sure, but they have a lot of guard depth, actually, especially with Lonzo now being like a pretty solid contributor again, which is really great to see. I would assume they can slot in. They've got some really good players. Jalen Smith is playing really well. He filled in for Vooch last game. This Bulls team is just like a better team than the Raptors, and they are looking to win more. They are going to be in kind of that play-in area. So I think that getting the Bulls at plus money, even though it is on the road and Toronto has been really good ATS at home, I want to be on the Chicago side of it, and we can regret this together when inevitably somehow I feel like there's gonna find a way to like lose the game but not win the money line. I feel like somehow that will happen. It's an impossibility, but it will somehow happen.
Somehow do that. They're gonna cover -1.5 and lose the game.
Yeah, exactly.
That'd be a very Chicago thing to do. Okay, so a couple of numbers to warn you off of this. This is like the typical, like, hey, I have lots of bad numbers for you. How about this one? Toronto versus bottom 10 defenses. They are 3-2 straight up this season, and with a plus 9.6 spread differential via cleaning the glass. That's not great to start with. The Toronto Raptors, as Jim mentioned, are incredible at home at 76.9% against the spread. They are now 9-4 without Scotty Barnes in the lineup against the spread. However, they're 2-11 straight up. So they don't win these games.
That's the thing. That's what I keep coming back to.
I want to be very clear on this. You cannot bet the Chicago Bulls by anything more than a point. They just gotta win. So if you wake up tomorrow and this number is like 3.5, walk away.
No.
Jim and I are telling you, walk away. We're giving it as a best bet because 1's bad. 3.5 would be awful. 2.5, no thanks. 2, maybe, but like for like less value.
And
But
stick to the
1
money
point-
line regardless. Do like a -120 instead of a -2 or something.
Yes. Yeah. Just get the win.
Yeah.
Because that really is the model here is without Scotty, they cover, don't win.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of numbers that indicate Chicago is a better team. They just have this nasty habit of like when Chicago's bad, they are so bad. But with the Raptors in the spot here, like I make it 6.7. Like Bulls minus 6 points. Like I think the Bulls should be 7-point favorites on the road versus the team. And like I respect the Raptors. I think I love RJ Barrett. Love him. Who's got RJ Barrett assists?
I was gonna say if you want to use that as a nice little throw it over here. So that's the final bet I have for Monday is RJ Barrett assists. So they started the last game without a nominal point guard and kind of had Barrett run the show. Hit a triple double, 10 assists. He's reached that mark a couple times this season. They had his assist number at 5.5 last game. My guess is if we see a similar starting lineup, we are not going to get that 5.5. But I don't think they're going to juice it up to. My guess would be a 6.5, about even juice on either side. I'm going to really like that. If somehow they do all the way to 7.5, I think they'll give us plus money on that. I'm going to even be intrigued by that. Chicago's defense just gets absolutely chewed up by opposing guards. It's been something that has been true all season. So if you would prefer to do a PRA, I mean, his usage is going to be absolutely crazy. It's over 32 without Quick and Barnes on the court this season. It's going to be a monster game for Barrett, and I just think that if they're going to use the same starting lineup where he's the facilitator, I want to be on the assist side of it in a game that should be high scoring, should have plenty of points, and hopefully Chicago win in the end.
I was on the NBA bet stream, and I used I did the best bets with Jay the night before for Raptors Heat, and Jay was all over Barrett assist in that one, and it hit obviously. And Jay was like, "I wouldn't be surprised if he got a triple double." And I wasn't really listening, but it got stuck in my head. And then I was doing my research and was like, I looked at all of Barrett's performances versus the Heat and was like, oh, he actually kills them. I was like, I could do triple double, and completely like forgot to give Jay credit. So I am giving Jay credit right now that Jay credit is responsible for my long shot hit on the NBA bet stream. I've hit 3 of them this season, by the way. That one was 22-1. So we've had
that's sick.
I've been with these sickos too much, and it's rubbed off on me. By the way, the final most hilarious thing about this game, Jim, dunks and threes has this projected Bulls 119, Raptors 118.
Oh, I saw. I noticed that. That seems like very feasible.
Yeah, it definitely does. I'm probably going to sneak on the episode tomorrow to give Cup thoughts on Thunder versus Bucks. Do you guys have leans on that game?
Thunder.
Yeah, Thunder. Joe texted me right at the start, and we were able to grab that number. I think I want the Thunder money line actually at this point. I don't often go with those juiced money lines, but we have been joking that like the refs have not been doing a good job of like getting the teams through that the NBA probably wants, but I kind of feel like this is going to be a close game. And so I do lean towards the Thunder, but I kind of want to be on the money line rather than the spread now that it's past I think it's up to like 5.5 at this point.
It moved pretty good, yeah.
I'd rather be on the money line.
My model is going to love the over, and I'm going to tell it to go fuck off, and I'm going to bet the under in this game.
Yeah, I wouldn't want that.
That'll be the play. Okay. All right, that's going to do it. Best bets. Mark Williams points over. RJ Barrett assists over. Bulls money line for Jim Turvey. Gershon Yabusele over 11.5 PR. LaMelo 4+ threes for Joe Dellera. We'll get you a same game parlay on the Parlay Express account on the Action Network app.
Can I pause you really quick? On the Parlay Express account, I just want to shout out the Parlay Express because I often will tell friends, like, don't bet parlays. If any of my friends are listening, still don't bet parlays. The Parlay Express, though, if you get a bunch of fucking really smart people together, the ROI for the Parlay Express right now is 40.41%.
It's insane.
That's what happens when you get really smart people and you compound all their EV plus plays. That's amazing. That's really impressive.
You're getting like the cream of the crop from the best long shot plays, and we're all putting in like 0.1 units on this, so it's like responsible.
Yep.
Again, I think parlays are fine if done responsibly.
100% agree.
Yeah.
Big key. That's going to do it for Buckets. My thanks to David Payne for a longer episode tonight. Appreciate his work on this, as well as Brady Rubino and the video crew at getting us up at youtube.com/The Action Network. Quick correction. What happens live is on our Discord channel in the NFL side. So go check that out. I'm on the Discord on the basketball side, on the NBA. So if you want to go in there and ask questions, hey, Matt, you said this on the pod, what the fuck? I will get back to you. Like I try, and when people have been like, I don't see this number, I will literally be like, okay, here's what I saw. Here's like a screenshot. Get off my ass. But also I'll try and be like, here, I want to help you find this bet. So make sure to go check out the Discord as well. Hope you guys have a great week. We'll be back tomorrow as we preview the Cup with cash only. I'll see you guys then. Till next time, let's get buckets.